Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is episode 3 of my Sebring build. On this episode we are going to cover how I'm going to wire up the indicators that we installed last time to the car. The front valiance, we're going to get that all lined up and weld that to the front of the car. We're going to do our grille adjustments. We're going to do removing of our chrome moldings, so that's the moldings that run along the side of the car. We're going to change our mirrors because I don't like these mirrors and I want something different. I'm also going to show you how I remove the GT badges from what are just behind the tailgate or boot lid, and how I fill those up, because when you remove those you'll see there's quite a large gap underneath them. And we're also going to fit our new wheels to the car, what are JR racing wheels. I liked these, so I decided to pick them for the car. Obviously they're not going to be to everyone's taste, you know. They're kind of like I guess a JDM version of the mini lights that most people go for. I'm going to go for more of a JDM kind of look for my Sebring, so I'm going to take inspiration from Japanese cars like MX-5s, but something to discuss when it comes to wheels. First thing that comes to mind to discuss is bolt pattern. You need to pick a bolt pattern that fits your car. It's no point in buying wheels that you like and the bolt pattern doesn't fit. So first and foremost, the most important thing is bolt pattern. The other thing to discuss that a lot of people don't realize, they think, oh, that's the bolt pattern's correct, it's going to fit my car. No. Important thing about wheels is to discuss is ET, right? ET basically dictates where this bolts on the wheel, right? So if you have a neutral ET, so that'd be an ET of 0, they're kind of in the center of the wheel, right? So one half of the wheel sits under the car, the other half of the wheel sits outside the car. Now, good and bad of that. It means that when you get your tire is equally spaced out. However, something to take into account, your suspension and everything sits on this side of the wheel when this car is placed on the car. Meaning you can run into issues where the wheel or the tire after you fit it catches the inside of your suspension. Hence the reason wheels come in a negative and a positive offset as well. Where that comes into play, if you have a negative offset, your wheel will sit further out from the car. Right? This means you'll clear your suspension better. However, a byproduct of that is that if your body finishes here, the wheel now sticks out further in your body. The other variant is a positive offset, and that brings this forward, meaning that the wheel comes further inside of the car. What that does for you, one, that brings the wheel inside of the car. If your suspension clears it, fine, you won't run into any issues. That also allows you to keep your line of the original side of the body in line. We're not so worried about that because we'll be widening the car anyway, but it's kind of important to make sure your wheels stay within line of your car anyway. It's common practice that people will pick the best wheel to fit. If you're looking for something wider, obviously you account for that by using a different offset. Other thing to take into account, and I always see people make this mistake, and I've made this mistake in the past as well, is wheel bolts. Now, the original bolts in your car, most of the time, will not fit aftermarket wheels. Usually because aftermarket wheels, half the time, will use something called tuner nuts. Now, tuner nuts, they actually fit directly into the hole of the wheel, but they are very narrow, and you can't really get a spanner. Or anything onto them. So they usually come with a tool like such. What that tool does, that tool bolts into the nut, and it gives you a bit further out from the wheel that then allows you to bolt that nut onto your car. That is going to basically allow you to get the wheel bolts in, because the original ones you would never be able to get the socket into the wheel as well to open it. Right, on that note, we're going to pack up and we are going to go to the tire shop and get the tire shop to fit tires to these wheels, and then we'll get them put on the car. This is going to allow us to get our wheel arches ready and do the various other bits we want to do on this car. Yeah, of course. Right, we got ourselves a few things, guys, right? We got ourselves some black wire for our ground side. We got ourselves some red wire for our live side. We got ourselves some electrical tape. It was like a kind of plasticky kind of rubber tape to wrap our connectors once we made them. And then we've got this, it's like a fabric tape. This is a loom tape, and this we're gonna wrap our wiring loom in once we've basically installed it all. We're gonna use these to do our indicators. Okay, so for the purpose of the video, just showing you. So we threaded our connector in and we kind of folded it over the edge, and then I filled the whole thing with solder through the middle of it, and I've kind of soldered the edge. It's not the perfect solder job, but it's going to give us connection on our lights. Before I did that, I threaded the wiring through the end of the caps, and on this end, on these ends, we'll cut them and we'll twist them together, and we'll fit. We'll fit these, or basically bullet connectors. So this side will go on the loom, the bullets will go on this side, and they'll connect into each other. And then we will tape those together, and then put the loom tape across the whole across the whole wire. Right, next we're going to remove the GT badges from the car. To remove these, there's a pop rivet in the bottom corner, a pop rivet in the top corner. We're just going to drill those out with a drill piece to remove these moldings. That's one. Now, surprisingly, I was not expecting that. So here, someone's already gone and filled it in, right? But you can actually see it started to crack, but this should not be like this. Usually there's a massive gap underneath these. And it's basically you would lead fill it. Usually we would lead fill it. I'm probably going to remove all this filler because you can actually see, if I get close to it, you can actually see where they filled it up with filler so quickly, it started to crack. But I was not expecting to find that. I was expecting that to be, have a gap in there. I might actually upload a picture of how that's supposed to look. Right, we're now going to remove our chrome molding from the side of the car. Now, to do this, couple of things. There is a nut in the middle of the door here, inside the door panel, so we'll have to remove the door card. There is a nut at the very front of the car, just here on the chrome strip. And there is a nut also at the very end of the chrome strip, inside the boot tailgate area. We're going to start with the front panel. Tools you're going to need to do this. Take you through. So you're going to need a drill, and that is going to be to remove the pot rivet kind of attachments that are underneath this, and you'll see those in a minute. You're going to need a Phillips screwdriver to take the door card apart. You're going to need like a plastic spreader. I'm going to use this basically to slide behind the molding, kind of spread it out, and then with the smaller flathead screwdriver I have, I'm going to use that sort of to pry the molding. I'm going to show you a close-up of that, and you're basically going to follow that for the entire strip. I've also got a larger flathead for when needed. We might not need to use that at all. We're going to start with the 8mm socket. Now I'm going to try to get a close-up of this if I can to show you, but sort of here, underneath, if you feel inside, you're going to feel it. You're going to basically take your socket and you're just going to loosen that off. Right, if you look up there inside the inside of the wing, so you've got your headlight bucket there, and here, that is basically the nut you're going to loosen. So it's awkward because you've got the strip of the wing, the lower bit of the wing, but you're kind of going to get that in there, and you're going to loosen it, and if you slacken it off slightly, you should be able to undo it with your hand. Now sometimes you might struggle to find this because they've filled the whole area up with stone chip. On this car you can see them. It's not it's not the easiest thing to get to. Right. And it is a real fiddly kind of job. Right. Right, that's that out. So we've got that out. Right. I'll bring you up closer so you can see this now. Okay. So if you see, we've removed the screw here. Now, if you work your way along the edge of the wing, you're going to come across these kind of rivets. So we're going to take our spreader, slide our spreader down here, and we're going to get a spreader in there. And as we pull the spreader across, you're going to see that we hit, it's a little bit hard to see, we're going to more or less hit inside here tabs. So what we're going to do, we're going to take our small flathead, and we're basically going to pop our flathead against our spreader, like so. It's hard to do this with one hand, and we're going to get in there, and you're basically going to pry the moulding up like that, off of the trim, and it will pop. You don't want to use too much force, but you want to use enough force that you move it. What we're trying not to do is bend these. These we're not going to use, but someone else might want to use them. If you do want to reuse them, obviously you don't want to bend them, so you just got to be very careful as you move your way along. That's our first one. We've got a second one as well then. Okay, we're going to cut in. I'm going to go again. That's come off as well. That's gone off. Pull that through. Sometimes they don't pop out both sides at the same time, so we're going to come underneath. There we go. Bring that back further. Again. Again. Last one. Right, and that's our strip off our front wing. Right, so your 8mm screw in your rear wing is located back here. It's sort of like next to the rear lights. Again, 8mm screw, so you'll remove that. Or 8mm nut, should I say. So we'll get in there, loosen that off. Like so. Alright, that's that loose. Alright, again now using our spreader, slide our spreader behind the trim, and we're basically going to work our flathead screwdriver again behind the trim. Go across. So. Right. That's our rear trim removed. Right, now to show you a close-up of the door. Now to remove the door card, to get access to that nut we need to undo. You need to remove these 2 Phillips screws first. You don't need to come around here and remove these 2 Phillips screws. This is going to remove this top trim. After that, you've got 2 little brackets that basically pull out from behind the locking mechanism. So you just pull those out. If they're a little bit tight, get a little flathead screwdriver in and remove them, but they're usually not that tight. You're going to remove the window crank, also a Phillips screw. Then below here, inside these holes here, that hold the door handle on, again, 2 Phillips screws. And then the door card is held on with clips. So if you work your way around the edge and pull it, the door card will come gradually loose. To get access to that nut, you're going to need to roll the window to the top. So we're going to roll the window up, like so, and we're going to get stripping this door card. For this time, so 1, 2, once you get the door card off, you're going to remove the backing. I'm actually going to check something. I can actually get to it with the door handle still on. So you know what, I'm going to leave the door handle on this side because I don't want to damage that screw more. And we'll use our 8mm piece to basically remove the screw that's inside the door. I'm going to show that to you now. So if you look inside the door up there, you're going to see it bang in the center. Take that out. That's done. And our plastic spreader. This time we're going to start from the middle of the door. So we're going to find where we undid that bolt. We're going to work our way along, and we're going to take our first, move our spreader across a bit. So, there we go. So our first one off. Get that in there like so. You may find the door trim is slightly tighter because you are working your way from the center, not from the end. Slide yourself across. Work our way to the end. I'm going to ease this up. Like so. Alright, I'll work our way to the front. Like so, come further across. Again, move to the front of the door. And that's our trim piece removed from the door. Right, now I'm going to show you a close-up of how I'm going to do this. Right, we removed all our mouldings. I'm now going to remove these here. To do that, I'm going to take our drill. I'm going to drill into the center of the rivet. And they're going to come off like that. I'm going to do that to the whole wing. Sometimes they get a little stubborn. If they get stubborn, I'm going to drill them out. I'm going to take my flathead, I'm going to go behind them and just pry them up to remove them. But we're basically going to do that the whole way along the side of the car. Right, that's all our mouldings removed. We're now going to remove the other side. Right, I've taken the mouldings off the other side. We've switched the car back to this side. We're now basically going to clean these, because what we're going to end up doing, we're going to end up welding up these holes. So we're going to have to clean these back so we've got exposed metal to clean. Also, if you look in the front wing, there's this groove. So there's a groove there and there's a groove down here. We're going to use a wire wheel to clean that groove out, and I'm going to weld that groove flush to the edge of the wing to get rid of that line. We're going to basically get in there with the drill and the wire to clean it to bare metal. And then what I'll do is when we come to weld it, we'll just take our time so we don't move the metal. To clean these, we're basically going to use a grinder, put a surface prep wheel on it, and we will basically run it over them like so, and take whatever's left of the head, if there's any on it, and take it back down to bare metal. Well, that's interesting. We just found a bit of rust in the top corner of the wing, so we'll have to go back in and repair that later. Right, I'm documenting this for the purpose of the group. Right, so we didn't even know it was there. Apparently this car was fully restored, and I've got pictures of this car for being fully restored, and it's all in primer and everything else. But this is the kind of bodge shit you see sometimes on cars. So clearly they went and repaired this whole car apparently, and then just decided to cover this in filler. You can kind of see it in here. You can kind of see the bubbling of the headlight bucket. So we're now going to end up having to clean this whole section all back, the inside of the bucket back, to basically repair whatever went on here. However, it is an alarm bell for me, because the underneath of this car looks somewhat solid and the body looks solid as well. But who's to say the underneath isn't like this as well, covered in filler? So it's a little bit annoying, but you know, we're going to have to address it because we're here now. So we'll probably end up cutting back like that to this edge, making a patch of metal, then going in and cleaning this edge and seeing if we need to make a piece in here as well, welding it all up nice and cleaning it all back. Obviously you can see up there, we're going to go the whole way to the top of the wing to check what's going on here, because now feeling here, I can feel something going on up here. So I am going to strip this all back, and we are going to have a look when we come to it. Right, I'm not going to show you me do this. I'm not going to show you me do the whole car, because you've already seen me weld in the past. But what we're going to do, we're going to start welding the holes from our moldings on the car, right? We're going to go around the whole car and weld all these up, and I'm going to show you how we do that. So forgive my welding as well, because I'm on a new welder and I'm still not quite happy with the settings, so I'm still kind of playing around with it. Before we start welding, something to mention. I'm working on the front wing. Like wherever you're working, try to make sure you have access to get behind the area. In the wheel arches on the car, there are like kind of metal covers pull them out so you've got access in there just in case you have a fire or something. You want to be able to get in there as quick as possible. Obviously have a fire extinguisher with you. When you do the doors, strip the door cards completely out just so you make sure that any sparks that might catch a light to anything. A lot of these old cars had sound deafening in them that looks like hay. Years ago, I set fire to a car because I didn't actually know that was a thing when I was learning. Cut a long story short, the car ended up in a blaze. On the rear wing, when you do the rear wing, remove all the carpet from the rear of the car and keep the boot lid open. You know, check as you work. If you were doing a big project, sometimes you'd have a spotter with you, someone who's sitting there and watching what you're doing to make sure that there isn't a fire. But just have a fire extinguisher handy. Right. So, first of all, you're going to take your drill with a wire wheel on, and you're just going to clean that area like so. You want that metal perfectly clean for you to weld. Put your welding mask on. Ooh. Not a lie. I'm going to put our earth on. Right. On the front wing, we also have this line, so I'm going to show you how to weld that up as well. But start with the hole. Mask on. Right, so you're going to weld that up like so. You are then going to take your angle grinder with a flappy disc on it, like so. Like so. And then I like to go in there with a DA. So I put a bit of 180 grit paper on a DA and I just go in there. And this basically gets it so smooth you can barely even see where we've made our weld. And you're going to repeat that process for every hole on the car. What I will say, take your time. Don't weld a hole, weld the next hole. Just pace yourself because you don't want to cause too much heat and warp the metal. If you think you're causing too much heat, just take a cloth, a little bit of wet water on, and just apply that on there like that. Now for the line. Right. You do not want to weld this line continuously because what will end up happening, the metal will warp as we discussed. If you look here, you can see I already welded some. You're going to weld small sections like that, like and move your way along the wing. Take your time. There isn't a rush. Something like this. So go in baby steps like that, take your time. Obviously you can cool the panel down. And obviously keep checking in here, keep checking if you've got any flames, any smoke. And you're basically gonna do that. And then you're gonna come somewhere like here and you're gonna go. And you can continue doing that. You're going to keep moving along the car doing that in sections, and then you'll come back and you'll fill in the gaps. Once you've done that, you're going to repeat the same process that we did there. You're going to grind everything back. You're then going to go over there with some sandpaper to smooth it out, and then later on we'll come back and we'll clean all this up. I'm going to fast forward ahead and I'm going to get all this done, and then I'll show you after what it looks like. Right, I want to try our wheels on now so we can get an idea of how the car's going to sit and look, as I'm not sure if I'm going to widen the body yet, but let's see how we get on. Right, that's our wheels changed. I'm quite happy with the back. The back sits nice and low. However, the front is way too high. Now, the suspension might need some time to adjust, but realistically, I'm gonna want it sitting quite a bit lower at the front, something even less than that. So obviously we're gonna have to adjust that and see how the best we can get. Maybe I should have used bigger tires, but at least they're not fouling anywhere under the car. I've checked to see if I can steer the car left and right and it's not catching on any of the suspension. The back clears all the suspension as well. Remember to check the wheels once they're on the floor if you're going to put them on the car, just to make sure that you're not catching on anything, because obviously when the suspension is not under any pressure, it's going to sit in a different position than what it would sit when it's on the floor. Right, that's our welding done. I just wanted to show you this. Again, I'm not going to show you the whole car, I'm just going to show you how I do this area. Obviously we did a lot of welding, so the heat kind of spreads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feather the paint back a bit on both sides. I'm going to start off with a flappy disc. So we're going to start with a surface prep wheel. So we're going to put that on our angle grinder. So get that on our angle grinder. And we're going to feather back this edge. So give that a nice clean. We're then going to go in with 40 grit sandpaper. And you're going to repeat that for the whole car so we get a nice clean area to work. Right, that's our surface completely sanded down. Now, this next step is a little controversial because depending on how you've learned to do this or how you've done this in the past, a lot of people have different opinions on the way this is done. The old school method was to strip it down to this kind of preparation and then apply the filler straight onto the metalwork, right? Now you can actually see that that's sort of been done before. You can see the filler just on the last layer there. And then you can see they put a primer on top of that and then they went over it again with like another primer and then they put the paint on. Materials have come a long way, so you can now apply a proxy primer straight onto bare metal to stop it from rusting. Let that dry and cure properly, and then you can apply a filler on top. Not everyone agrees with that method, but that is the method that I'm going to use. But obviously do your own research, check the materials that you're using to make sure that you can do that. I have done it in the past and had reactions, but it's very rare that that's happened, but it has happened. So obviously check the products you're using, make sure they're compatible for the application that you're doing it on. Right, take our little rag and we're basically going to wipe the whole area to remove any dust. Like so. And that's going to come out like that, dust on it. I've already pre-shaken my primer, but you're going to give your primer a shake. for around 5 minutes. Get the can moving nice and well, and get that ball so you can hear it shaking inside the can. And then we're just gonna go in there with a light dust coat to start off with. So like so. We're gonna let that dry for about half an hour, and then we'll come on and give it another coat, a little bit heavier. Right, final third coat. We're just gonna go a little bit heavier now. We're going to let that dry a couple of hours because it's cold in here, and then we can move on to the next stage. For now, we're basically going to continue doing the same to the rest of the car, and then we'll come on to the front later where we're going to do something a bit different. Okay, so that's our primer applied. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back with a bit of filler, and we're basically going to fill in this top edge all the way along the bottom edge. Alright, get yourself a surface to mix your filler. I'm obviously using a bonnet off of my old MX-5 because I had a spare one. Obviously, you could use a bit of wood or something like that. But more or less what we're going to use is a body filler called Fantastic Cupol. Very good quality stuff. It's quite lightweight. So we're going to open that up. And then how this stuff works, you basically mix it together with a hardener. I actually quite like this stuff. Like, it's really good for the house if you want to, like if you're doing DIY or anything and you don't want to use the normal DIY fillers. Sometimes I'll use this in the house because it dries quite quickly. All right, so we're going to do the whole wing. So we're going to take a few dollops of it, like so. And then we're going to mix in some hardener. Now, you don't have to mix in loads of this, but at the moment it is quite cold where I'm working. So again, I'm going to add a bit more than I probably should. And what you're going to do, you're going to mix that all together. What you're looking for is that the red streaks are completely gone and fully mixed in with the filler. So you're going to keep mixing, keep turning it over. Like so. Alright, that's mixed. We're now going to apply this to the car. Right, we're going to start applying our body filler. Don't be too hard on yourself if you've never done this before, because I'll be honest with you, this is probably the thing I hate most about working on cars is using body filler, and kind of that whole kind of prep work, because it's so hard to get right when you're learning. So we're going to push it into the seam, like so. You're going to pull down, pull across. And what I'll do this for the whole car. And you won't get this straight first time. It's almost impossible for you to do that. Unless you've been doing it for years, and then even then most people don't get it the first time. So what you'll do, you'll put the filler on quite thick, cover the whole area that you're working in, and then we'll sand most of the material off the car anyway. So boom, boom, boom. Take that filler at the seam, like so. What we're going to try to do now, I'm going to try apply it on the top line. So when you order the filler, it comes with like a kind of like a plastic spreader that you can use to spread the filler, but I'd advise you buy more because they only usually ever give you like 1 or 2 with the tubs. If you buy the smaller tubs, they give you like a half size one of this, what's actually quite good for like corners and stuff. But what you can do if you're doing anything like that, you can just cut these down. I've cut down loads to different sizes depending on what I'm working on. You can see that I'm putting this on, but it's not absolutely perfect. You have to work quickly with this stuff. Obviously, we applied quite a lot of hardener because it's cold, but eventually this will start reacting and heating up. And when it starts doing that, you basically can't use it. You have to more or less start again and mix up some more. So for reference, that's what it's like when it starts to go off. So it goes kind of like, you'll feel it's warm, but it goes kind of rubbery before it starts to go off. So if it starts going like that, just bin it away, start again. Right, that's the filler applied. Now you're gonna see that when we applied the filler, it's dried. You can see like there's edges where we've got like built the filler up, and we've obviously got bits and pieces going on everywhere. So to start off with, you're gonna take a bit of 80 grit sandpaper on a block. So we're gonna put that on a block, and you're gonna go over this until all the filler is consistent. So I'm gonna go over it like that, like so. See, you already hit a high spot there. So we'll come back to this, and I'll explain what this means in a minute. But we're gonna go over it like that, and we want to bring all the filler down to sort of like a uniform height, and get rid of all those hard edges. And the trick here is that we want to get this filler as smooth as we can, and then we'll basically go back in. We're obviously going to have to go and hit it again, but the trick is just to get it smooth as you can. If you go anywhere through it, and like this is a good example here, and you hit the metal, just stay, because what that means is you've hit the base substrate of the car. You can't go any further unless we're going to tap this in. So I would stop there, and then we'll come back and discuss more why we're doing that. But that is probably close to where we want to be with the filler. And then we'll come in and we'll touch around that. But for now, block the whole thing with 80 grit. Right, I've sanded that down with 80 grit, and it's all quite uniform now. So we're going to just take a random bit of tissue, wipe the wing off. because it's not crazy important that this is perfect. This is just so we can see what we're dealing with. So wipe the wing off, like so, because we want to see exactly where we are. Now, your first coat, you're not going to get everything, but you are going to get most of it. So we feathered the edge on both sides of the filler to the car. The next thing we're going to do, and this is like a, not a cheat, but most people, you'll see them do this. We're going to take a bit of satin black, and what we're going to do, we're just going to dust the panel very lightly, like so, like this. You're going to dust all your primer and some of the car. Now, once that's done, we're going to change up our sandpaper a little bit, and we're going to switch to something slightly lighter. We're going to switch from 80 to 180. And with the 180, we're going to go over the car again, and we're going to block the car again. Now, block is flat. You're going to block like so. And what you're going to see, as I block over this, is, we wipe this off, you now can see where your low spots are. So you can see here, you're too low, because you can still see the black paint, right? Now you can feel that anyway, and you can see that from the camera. Obviously it's exaggerated. You can also see where we've hit the metal here. So this is high. Now we could tap this down with a hammer if we wanted to. If we think that one spot is too high, and tap that down so we can use less filler, or you can build the filler on top of it. I know this isn't an issue, and we do need a bit more filler anyway. But as you block the car, so if I block the top line, we're going to block it like this, go over this whole panel, and we pull back. You can see here, again, we've got a bit of a low spot. You can see here we've got a low spot. So that's going to allow you to go back in and apply more filler. So you're going to do the whole panel with the 180. So try and block the whole panel. So if I bring the camera closer, again, like we discussed, you've got a high spot here, high spot there. You come across, straight away you see, whoop, there's a low spot there. You come across here, turn this back. You see here, a bunch of low spots, high spot where you can see the metal. Come across, in there, low spot again. Come down here, huge low spot here. You come across here, look on the bottom edge, again, low spot, high spots where we did the welding, again here, another low spot. So this is going to allow you to see, got some pinholes here in the filler, so you'll go back and we'll just skim those. You'll start to see where all your imperfections are. So what you're going to do is you're going to apply another coat of filler, and then you'll apply another coat of filler, and you're basically going to follow this procedure the whole way through until this panel is completely smooth. Now, again, it's very time consuming. You are going to get frustrated with yourself. You can just end up wasting a whole tub of filler, but trust me, trust the process, keep going at it. Eventually you will get it. It took me a very long time to get even half okay at this. I would still be honest and say I'm not perfect at doing filler, and that's why I hate doing it. But you'll get yourself to a good enough standard that you'll get away with it more or less. Once you've done your 3 coats of filler and you've blocked it, and you are going to block it with 180 when you get there, we're then going to apply a high build primer. Okay, that's our sanding done. So we went over it with 2.5 coats of filler. So we went over it once with filler. We went over it again in some low spots, and then we basically went in and kind of touched up any deep scratches that we got in the filler. We've now sanded this all down with 320 grit. So we went from 80 grit to 320. We're now going to apply a filler primer. So I'm going to put this on light, shake the can up again. I'm going to put this on light, and then we will let it dry, and then we'll go on with a heavier coat. And what you're going to see with the primer is once you start putting it on, it goes on wet. So you may still see imperfections that you missed. Now we can go back and get those. This is sort of almost like a guide coat for us so we can see what's happening. But the filler primer will remove any minor imperfections that are in the bodywork. Okay, we shall let that coat dry. I'm going to continue with the rest of the wing. Once this coat dries, then we'll go back in and put another coat on it. Right, that's our filler primer on and dry. I'm going to end the video there, I think. We've got loads done. We're going to have to go back probably in the next video, start sanding this back, get the car ready for paint. And we still have to get our front end done. So I am going to end up welding this to the front of the car, so we'll pick that up in the next video. The side's already all in high build primer. We'll also in the next video cover how we're going to fill these in with lead. So we'll clean these back, take the trims out, and I'll show you how I do that. And then if I manage to get a fuel cap, we'll also install the fuel cap and I'll show you how we plumb that into the car. Thanks for joining us.